Charolais Chatter Podcast with your hosts, Carrie Cliff and Mitch Benedict. Now, here are your hosts, Carrie and Mitch.
They're made in a rain and dirt, in the blood, sweat, and the hurt, in the million-mile drives, in the years of sacrifice, just living for 10.
Here we go, season 5, episode 6, and we're recording on a Wednesday, the day after St. Patrick's Day. So I'm hoping everybody celebrated and you don't have the green squirts or anything. Mitch, did you have green beers last night?
We did. Pictures.
Did you say pictures or pitchers?
Pictures.
Ah.
Pictures.
Of green beer. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're not even, you realize in Ireland, because my wife is, well, her dad is first immigration, I guess is that how you term it, to the U.S. from Ireland. But anyway, they don't celebrate it like we do. Isn't that kind of weird? But I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we just celebrate to celebrate, like Valentine's Day. I know you're getting pumped up for that. Or did we miss that? Oh, yeah. It's gone.
No, I heard a whole story on it today or yesterday, I think it was. So it's kind of interesting.
What's that? St. Patty's Day?
St. Patrick was an actual slave, yes. And then later became, yeah. You should look into it. I thought you were so damn Irish.
I am 28%, but I'm, I'm all that
way
other
more than me, and I already know more than you about it. He was captured at like 11 or 12 years old, turned into a slave, and then for like 6 months, then he escaped and something like that. Don't quote me on the logistics, but then became like a bishop and then a missionary and went back to Ireland.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, learn something new every day. Oh,
I did too. It was interesting.
Yeah. Well, I like St. Patty's Day. You can celebrate, and you usually don't technically have to buy anything for anybody. You just go out and celebrate. And ironically, it's my sister-in-law's birthday of my wife's sister. So we took our party bus and went to town and had dinner. So it was fun. But anyway, before we get cranky here, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor. And actually, they are doing something special. So just got posted here about 2 hours ago. From Cattle Active. It says, we're proud to support Nebraska farmers and ranchers affected by the fires. For every gallon of Cattle Active sold, $25 will be donated directly to the relief efforts, helping those who need it most. So with that, here's a shout out to our sponsor.
Do you know that the key to your herd's productivity depends on a strong, balanced rumen? Cattle Active is an all-natural plant-based supplement that supports the rumen by neutralizing excess acid that can lead to acidosis. This improves feed utilization and boosts immune function. The only product of its kind, Cattle Active will help your herd with your profit margins reach their full potential. Be proactive with Cattle Active. Visit ProEarthAnimalHealth.com today to learn more.
Thank you to Cattle Active and what you're doing. $25 a gallon of Cattle Active will be donated to the wildfires. And so what's going on, Mitch, with the wildfires? Where and how much acres is that affecting right now?
It is crazy. It initially, like the first day it blew up, there was fires everywhere. I mean, we had fires south of Lincoln, which is in the eastern end of the state, but several blew up. Several blew up in western Nebraska, but the largest one here that's been reported is the Morrill County fire. And so far from what the news is saying, the news channel 7, which I don't watch at all, but 643,000 acres has burned so far, and it's 16% contained. Ooh. And then there's another larger one, Cottonwood Fire, which I'm not sure. I think that one's closer to where my brother lives, southwestern Nebraska. And that one's 131,000 acres so far and 40% contained. And then several other small ones. But so we're talking over 800,000 acres. And that, in other cases, I know there's some big forest fires and stuff that happen. This is habited area, though. it's not open rangeland with nothing more than a little bit of wildlife. This is houses and ranches and I mean buildings, and I think the one ranch, Van Newkirk Herefords, I've seen, they looks like they lost several yards and almost all their equipment, and I don't know. There's not even a number on cows. I will bet you there's probably more cows burned than some of our smaller cattle states have altogether.
Wow.
So
that's not good.
No, just crazy dry again, and I don't even know what caused the fires, but I mean it can be anything from the electrical lines to just combustion from static electricity. Just, I mean, cars driving. So I seen a video somebody posted, well, if there's any wildfires tonight, I know where it started, and they were following a car, and I don't know if his muffler was dragging, but it was just a solid spark.
Oh,
yeah, and I'm like, ugh,
that's not good. Well, with only, would you say 16% contained? That's they got a long.
Yeah, and I don't understand what that number really means.
Yeah.
It's already burned that much area, but so I don't know if that means like the leading edge of it that's pushing.
Yeah.
They're just, I mean, they can't stop it. There's, the wind has been a factor. Today it wasn't nearly as windy out here. Still pretty decent, I guess. I was in central Nebraska and it was pretty windy. But they got Air Force big carriers. I mean, it ain't even the choppers with the water. I mean, they have some big firefighting carriers that were, I don't know how many gallons of water them big planes are dropping, but
that's crazy.
And it's just so dry. There's so much material out there. They utilize winter grazing, quite a bit, and I'm just no stopping it. So I don't have the open fields like we have here that, I would say west of me, the last 60 miles on my way home driving on Interstate 80, most of those fields have been turned over, disked several times, not plowed, but, field cultivated. So, I mean, you're not going to catch them on fire, but out there it's all grass. So
right.
Nothing to stop it. But,
well, I hope they get this thing tuned up soon, or hopefully got some moisture coming in to get it slowed down a little bit.
We had nothing in sight. We got some ourselves here in eastern Nebraska. We got about a 2-inch snow, but that they didn't get anything out there.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, we got. I don't know if you saw the video. I had 10 inches of snow here what day was it? Friday. Then it turned to rain, and then it melted. So it's like, and I'm not complaining because we need it. We're short of water, but yeah,
they would definitely take some of that out there. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, thoughts and prayers go with the people in Nebraska right now, and thank you to Cattle Active for donating $25 a gallon of Cattle Active purchased to the wildfire relief fund there. So before we get on to our special guest, I want to touch on something because I've been watching a whole bunch of sales here recently because there's a whole bunch of them on, and that's what you do, right? so from liveauctions.tv to DV Auction to Cattle USA, I mean, there's a slug of them, but there's one take home I have, and there's been some tremendous averages in the Charolais breed this year. I mean, we got to be setting records, and pretty impressive. But across the board, I have noticed there's one thing, and I would recommend to all sales: start on time. If you say you're going to start at noon, start at noon. Because for all those out here that aren't able to attend, mostly these things the sales are during the week, and you're kind of on a time frame sometimes. But I watched one sale, not a Charolais sale, it was an Angus deal. It was supposed to start at 1. And I was watching an auctioneer finally goes up there at 1:15, and it's like, start on time. There's no reason that thing should not start on time. You guys have planned this for a year. The books are out. People are expecting to start on time. So that's my rant for today. Congratulations to all the Charolais sales that have been record highs here recently. But to take home, start your sale on time. But with us today, we have a special guest from Montana, and it's the history here is going to be amazing for all our listeners. So, Buddy Westphal from Polson, Montana, Valley View Charolais, thank you for being on with us.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun and dive into your program and when it all started. But I want to give a little bit of backstory. I've been following Buddy's program here for quite a few years, and every year I'm like, okay, Mitch, we need to get Buddy on, and then we just get tied up, with episodes. But this one's going to cover a lot of Charolais stuff, some fun rodeo stuff, and he's got a really top-notch sale coming up on the 28th of March. But first off, Buddy, let's talk about the history of this. So where'd you all start out, and how did you get into the Charolais breed?
I actually was introduced mostly to Charolais. My dad had used a Charolais bull here and there, and I'd seen him some growing up. But when I was in high school, I was worried about what the football team was doing and what the girls were doing, and I wasn't sure what color the cows were, or did I care? And I got to college. I went to college. Well, the first couple of years I went to rodeo. I went to the rodeo scholarship to the team that had won the national finals, the national champion team the year before, and then we won it the next 2 years that I was there. And so I was having a good time. Casper, yeah, that was Casper, Wyoming. And and we had, it was really a great set of people, and the coach he's really a Hall of Famer and so on like that. So that was what my focus was on doing. People get excited about the fact that I worked 5 events. Well, that was because the coach made you. I was good enough to enter, but I sure wasn't good enough to win, and I sure got bashed a whole lot in some of the events and so on like that. And so I'm not going to tell the stories about what all did happen. I was there, but at any rate, I'm sure that my later years of amateur rodeos and PRCA rodeos, that I was mostly 2 events, and that was maximizing me. And then I transitioned as the ground got harder and I got slower. I transitioned into cutting horses that I'd always been involved in from high school rodeo. But in high school rodeo, you don't tell anyone that you're entered in the cutting because you're supposed to just be a bull rider, rough stock event person, and that's kind of a sissy event. And so you don't admit you're doing that. But fortunately, I had a friend that, a family that they had a real good stud horse that needed loped down a lot and needed ridden, and so they would let me show it before the daughter showed it. And and I was doing it for the all-around points. That was, it was not, fortunately they would usually have the cutting at a different time, so all my other cowboy friends didn't know that I was doing that until after I won the all-around, and then they'd be envious that they didn't get entered. But anyhow, that transitioned back later on as I got, like I say, the ground got harder and I got slower, and so cutting horses came back, and I'd grown up with cutting horses. The one of my best friends in Cub Scouts was a guy that his dad was very involved with cutting horses, that Buster Welch trained the horses for him and actually won the very first NCHA futurity, and had very prominent horses. And again, I rode them not knowing what they were, or that it was a big thing. But then later on, after I'm growing up, I found out that they were famous, that they had good ones. And
really?
But anyhow, that got me into college. And at college, I went to Colorado State University, and my combination of my genetics teacher and the advisor to our Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity was a guy named Dr. Tom Sutherland, that was born in Scotland and raised in Europe, and knew all the French cattle and knew all the European cattle. And he kept preaching this new term of hybrid vigor. And all through the classes there, hybrid vigor. And he kept saying those Charolais cattle that are just now coming in are going to be the right thing to cross with our Hereford and Angus cattle. At that time, there was way more Hereford cattle in the West than there was Angus cattle, but that was going to be the right thing to use on to crossbreed and get hybrid vigor. And he convinced me of that in the years of his classes, which he was the greatest professor. I guess the side story of him, after he was well on into his 20th year or something like that at Colorado State, he took a sabbatical and went to Beirut, Lebanon to be the dean of agriculture there, and
Wow.
he was kidnapped. They thought he was the college president, and he was kidnapped, and he was the longest held hostage, 6.5 years that he was held hostage in Beirut. And
Cool.
and the good news about that, after because they obviously found out it was the Iranians that kidnapped him, and the United States held a huge hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Iranian money, and he ended up being awarded 35 million that he gave most of it back to Colorado State University.
Oh, you're
That's
kidding.
he's
Wow.
Wow.
quite a guy. But anyhow, he's
that's
the one
amazing.
that convinced me that that's what I wanted to do, and he kept showing me pictures, and he was my advisor, my fraternity advisor, just a doggone good friend. He was only 10 years older than me, I guess, and the fact he has his PhD and was teaching there, and just made going to cattle places fun. We'd go to feedlots. We had Montfort's, which is now JBS, to go to, and places that were really on top of things, and to go to the AI studs, to IBB, a cute trip that we did one time to IBB that you guys would understand. We went down to see the cattle, and they'd given them all a nice bath, and they were still wet. And one of the new French bulls was standing there, and he looked like a Guernsey. He was just spotted brown and white, and absolutely you couldn't. And someone said, "Dr. Sutherland, what's the deal with that?" And he said, "Well, when the Frenchmen were fighting the war, they weren't home breeding cattle, and that's probably where Simmental got in there." So I don't know. I still know the name of that bull and still remember what he was and stuff. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, is there still semen being sold on that bull?
that was back in that would have been in 1967 or something in that neighborhood, and so he's long gone. But
Wow.
anyhow, I learned history of cattle breeding of that. That was long before they started adding Chianinas into the Charolais breed for the show cattle. You guys have been to Denver long enough that you know that they aren't doing that anymore. But you saw that in Denver in the 70s and 80s and whatever, and just made me not like show cattle. But
Yeah.
I guess whatever.
So,
But anyhow, Dr. Sutherland was the whole reason, and when I found out, I started right while I was in graduate school, and was looking for a herd of Charolais cattle, and found out there was a herd of cattle in Montana that was for sale, and the guy was dying of cancer, and wanted out, and he had a younger wife that he didn't want her burdened with cattle or the ranch or whatever, and I came up by the cattle thinking I was moving him home to Colorado, and
yeah.
pretty soon he started talking about the ranch, and it ended up that I ended up buying the ranch too, still thinking that, yeah, I'll take it off his hands and still moving back to Colorado. But it didn't take me long to lose my map getting back to Colorado and saying, no, this is home. And
Yeah.
that was 58 years ago.
Wow. So in these eras that you just talked about, what events did you do? Were you calf roping and team roping? Was that your main event?
My PRCA money was running one in bulldogging and bareback riding, and
Bareback.
I guess that absolutely saddle bronc riding. I didn't mind getting on bulls if they weren't going to eat me too bad and so on like that. Saddle broncs threw me up in the air so high, and it was so long coming down that I needed a parachute, and I was awful. I was horrible. And lots of my classmates were fantastic. Lots of them. Well, Ned Londo held the record for a long time at the NFR for the highest mark ride, and well, there's several went on to be world champions that were my classmates at the time. Joe Alexander but that's whatever, a whole bunch of times bareback riding champion. And quite honestly, the first year he had transferred in, but he wasn't on the rodeo team until late in the year and stuff. And I guess there's just lots and lots of real good cowboys that came to there, and we were competing against other ones too that were good.
Were you in the era of Chris Ledoux then?
He was a year behind me, went to the same college then, the year after I left there and went to Colorado State. But so we saw him. He was in our region, so we saw him all the time, and so I knew him and followed what he was doing. And you and I talked about it. That was before his singing career. That his singing career got a lot better after he traveled with Garth Brooks and got a little bit more background behind him and a little more show behind him and so on like that. He was kind of a bashful Wyoming kid when he started out.
Oh, really? Well,
yeah,
that's what Ned is. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say that. That sounds like Ned.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ned. I know of Ned being the drummer to the band, and I don't know whether he was how quick Ned got to traveling with the band, whether he ever traveled with Garth Brooks or just when he did get involved. But at any rate, definitely Ned was the drummer for the band that played at Elko and played at several of the rodeos and so on like that.
So is it true that Chris would, if you're at rodeos, he'd sit on the tailgate and play and write songs?
Yeah.
He just kind of
he was playing around, but so was a whole lots of those guys that couldn't sing either. That's what you do.
I guess Johnny Cash didn't rodeo that I know of, did he? I don't.
I think he just drank.
Same
thing.
Maybe a little more than drink.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah.
That era, Chris Christopherson, Waylon Jennings, and Willie.
Right.
Well, Willie's still doing it. So.
Right. Yeah, no age on Willie.
Yeah.
I've got a neighbor that drove the bus, drove the band bus, Willie's bus, and tells Willie stories all the time. And just until recently, he was doing that. Through his 90th birthday, he was still driving his bus.
That's crazy.
Good stories.
So this history of rodeo has led you into the 2026. You got inducted to the 2026 in Montana Hall of Fame. So, what a special honor. And what did that mean to you to do that?
It was definitely a big honor and definitely a surprise. Definitely something that I know a whole lot of people that were in, and I thought you had to be dead before you got in, and a whole bunch of them went in the same class as me were. But definitely that's a real neat deal, and quite honestly, I guess that I have to tell the story that it shows that I was doing a whole lot of traveling around and a whole lot of going places. That started clear back my first year in the Charolais business. I was going to major Charolais breeders and spending the weekend with them and going to the Michaelis Ranch several times and made good friends with Maximo and going to Litton's and going, I was sure seeing what the world was and so on like that. And I was rodeoing and later on showing cutting horses doing the same thing and whatever. But basically is what that means when you've been around doing that much. It means you must have had an awful good backup crew that was milking the cow and feeding the chickens. And that means it's on me to get the award, but they did the thing that allowed me to do it.
Right. Yeah. Stuff doesn't stop at home, does it? When you're on the road,
they keep on going. I have to say that I truly thought I had things organized and could be gone for a weekend and had good help is what it amounts to. And whatever. And that's the key is, and even like showing cutting horses when I hauled for the world, I would get everything done. And that Friday afternoon, I would head south to Fort Worth and 1,800 miles and drive all night, get there in time to show in the morning on Saturday, show again Sunday morning, drive all night to get back home. And Monday morning, it was like I'd been resting all weekend, ready to go and breed a whole bunch of cows or do something the next day after driving. You just got used to doing it. Back in those days, it was cheap gas, and so you could do it. And they had, the 454s would go fast, and Montana didn't have a speed limit whatsoever. And there's a lot of
454.
454. Yeah, we got a lot of good quotes already. I love this.
I would stop in the night to check the oil and lift the hood, and it was just a glow. The manifolds were just orange. And 454s, that's all I can tell you is that you have to change manifold gaskets every 20,000 or something like that.
Oh, yeah. You get a little heated up, huh?
You got them. Smoke the gaskets right off of them.
So what an era, I'm jealous. I mean, I was born, I think we're both born in the 70s, right, Mitch? So,
Mhm.
okay. So, didn't get to witness it that I remember, but what an era of fun stuff that you got to
Well,
see. And
it was a not necessarily a good education. When I got in the Charolais business, the full French had just come in. In fact, that was my experience of the cows that were bred to the new full French bulls that were ABS bulls mostly and whatever. And my first calving was not fun. And telling people when I'd go into someone's place and tell them I was in the Charolais business, they would grab their children and run. I mean, it's like saying, you know, it's like saying, "Hey, I'm Charles Manson. I came to date your daughter." And without question, they definitely scared them to death. Well, that's fine if you're in the business to keep those things locked up. No
yeah.
Right,
sense
right.
no sense in having grizzly bears hit our herd. And whatever, and a whole lot of it was truth. I mean, when they started importing French cattle, the Frenchmen didn't necessarily think the Americans were that great of people anyhow, and I think
Yeah.
they sent lots of tricks. I bet they laughed their heads off after
Uh-huh.
they shipped some of those bulls and said, "Yeah, that's going to kill those guys, and yeah,
Oh,
that'll wipe them out. That'll split a cow open, and whatever." And so there was a lot of education that you didn't want to get by misexperience. And
and that's
and I
still
experienced
happening today. There's been Mitch and I talked. There's still that old adage of people think Charolais breed
that.
is are cow killers. They don't realize that we've
Yep.
changed that. And how do we educate people that that has changed since that era?
It takes a neighbor using one of your bulls that's working and then
Yeah.
them bragging about it. That's
Yeah.
the only way I know. I mean, there's some of them and a lot of them that don't want to be convinced that they wouldn't breed to a white one no matter what. They're satisfied with the crippled black ones and the bad disposition of the black ones. So
Yep.
why would they
Yep.
get something else? And so, but
Yeah.
I guess that definitely that was a challenging and the educational part that I got from it didn't take me long. Fortunately, I'm close enough to Canada where the full French were coming in that I got to know the people in Canada. At that time you could only bring, I think 10% of the new imports could come across the border. And so they were owned by people in Canada and managed by people in Canada and so on. And so I got to be friends with the people in Canada because I'm 70 miles from Glacier Park and
Oh,
I'm closer to Calgary, Alberta than I am from Billings. And so
well,
it's
yeah.
a easy
Yeah.
trip for me to go up there. And Calgary had a whole lot of events going on that was fantastic and a whole lot of good cattle people and so it was an education. But in Canada they had the PFRA herd, that's the Canadian government owned herd, that they would test and they would collect bulls, limousines, Simmentals, Chianina, you name it, whatever. And the straws, well, no, it was ampules of semen there, was marked, but it wasn't when the technician was putting it into cow, they didn't know what it was. They were just putting so many in. And so all the records were definitely, they didn't know what was coming till it got there and identified later on and stuff. But the PFR, or the conceptive consumer test that the Canadians were doing then was as real and accurate and dynamic as you could get.
Yeah.
And so I started paying attention. The first thing I figured out in a quick hurry when I started calving some of those full French bulls, I was saying, "Oh, good, this old cow's going to have a calf by whatever, Alabama Bernard, we'll say." And I was so excited it's going to be born on March 1st. And well, March 1st come and nope, no calf. And
Oh,
March 10th come and nope, no calf. And so then I'm saying, "Oh, doggone it, they missed it. It's going to be a cleanup calf." And
yeah.
then voila, 20 days later, here comes this 140-pound beauty that I have to figure out everything from chisel and pelvis to C-section to whatever. And it only took me one calf crop to get an education. And I
Yeah.
started looking for, the first thing I noticed is the correlation between gestation and calving problem. And so I headed to Canada and looked at the PFRA herd and conceptions consumer numbers and started hunting bulls that would have a calf in 283 days. I don't know where we ever got up the 286 that everyone likes now, but when I was in
Mhm.
college, it was only 283. and I'm still living with 283, and my heifer bulls are 278 and less than 280. And that's how I know that there's going to be that, when they're growing inside mama, they're growing too long. It's going to be a big calf. There's no question about it. And they're 10 days late, they're going to be 20 pounds too heavy.
Yep.
And so I learned that in 1969 after my fun calving period that I could. I'm glad they didn't have cell phones there. Then they could record some of the things we did. And that would have been
that would even make that Dr. Pole shy away, wouldn't it?
I think PETA would have me captured to have never calved another bunch. But anyhow,
so let's talk about this. It's an area that you moved into when you bought the herd, Polson, Montana. So is that considered the Bitterroot Valley still?
No, we're north of the Bitterroot Valley. We're north of Yellowstone, where the Yellowstone film is and stuff, fortunately, because we don't want all that chaos and whatever. And I'm the Flathead River makes my west boundary, and the Flathead River comes out of the Flathead Lake, which is the largest natural freshwater lake west of the Mississippi. And it's 50 miles long and 25 miles wide, and has that, and the water that runs out, the river that goes by my place ends up in the Pacific Ocean. It drops into the Clark Fork, that drops into the what goes on in the Pacific, not the Salmon River, what is it?
Well, the Columbia, doesn't it go in
Columbia? That's what it ends up in the Columbia. Yeah. So anyhow, so you could put your boat in at my house and end up going past Portland. But when it goes over some of the falls, the different hydroelectric plants, which there's one just north of my place that it crunches the boat pretty bad. You want to take it out before you get to the hydroelectric plant.
Well, I'm literally half an hour, well, not even that, 20 minutes from the Columbia on one part of it. So but so I've heard fishing at the Flathead Lake is amazing. Is this
it's they have Mackinac tournaments and catch 50 of them a day, and they weigh ridiculous amounts, and I don't know. I wish I had time to go fishing and whatever, and so I can't even talk good about it at all. But if they don't stand way tall and way big, you don't get your picture in the newspaper. That's all I can say. And they used a deal that was fascinating to me. There used to be kokanee salmon, and the kokanee salmon when they were spawning, they would be close to the shore, and you'd throw out a line with 3 lines and 5 hooks or whatever, and you drag it back and hook them in the back, and they call it snagging. And you could snag 6 of them in one cast, and that's the doggonest thing I've ever seen. I never did get involved in it, but it was fascinating to watch other people.
Well, buddy, I grew up on the reservation, and I learned to fish with nets. So this whole doing it with the lines doesn't even make sense to me. So I'm like, well, leave it to the white man to put out one line. Why not just put out a net? I mean, that's a lot easier.
I'm with you. Okay, I'll join that one too. That would be easier. Yeah, I'm not very patient. That's why I'm not a fisherman. I'm not.
No.
If I can't look down and see the fish before I drop my worm in, I'm not gonna like it.
So you're right on the border of the reservation, aren't you? Are you pretty close?
Our land is one of the more unique places. It is an Indian reservation that in 1880s, they took 2 tribes that hated each other and put them together and said, here's your reservation. It's this beautiful land that's surrounded by mountains. It's got the lake right here. It's as pretty a land as you can see. And here it is. Well, one tribe went to the south end, the other tribe went to the north end. And here was all this beautiful land in the middle that was totally unused and was as good a land as there could be. And so they opened it up to white men to homestead. And so it's got deeded land. My land is all deeded and was settled by homesteaders back in that early era and whatever. The only difference is that we're still finding, as court cases go on and whatever, of what limitations like water rights and like hunting for that matter. I'm not tribal, but a tribal person can come and shoot a deer off my lawn, but I can't shoot it because I can't shoot large animals. And I can get a license to shoot pheasants and birds, but not deer and elk. And we are overrun. They need to spray for deer and open up. They need to open up a youth season that they can shoot them all year round and do something. Because and the new thing though that they're saving me money. I don't have to test my haystacks anymore because the deer will tell me which is the best. You just have to put less into it. And so
it's gone, huh?
Saving me several $100s a year by not having to test my hay. And they've been for 10 years. They've been talking about a government program that they're going to allow add a subsidy for fencing the deer out and so on like that. But that's all talk. That hasn't happened.
Yeah. Well, we've really built a platform to, where you went to school and how you grew up, and now we're getting into the Charolais breed pretty hot and heavy into the 80s and 90s and up until current. So let's talk about your herd and how it changed and evolved through those years, and also your sale come up. I mean, you're going on 50. What is it?
58.
So let's
but
talk.
Who's counting?
Yeah. Let's talk about that involvement of your Charolais herd through those years.
We've fortunately, when I bought this ranch, it had two divisions. It had a commercial division and a purebred division. There, in those days, in the early Charolais days, there was the breeding up, the crossbreeding, half blood, 3/4 blood. There was a handful of people in the state of Montana that had purebred cattle, but there was way more half and 3/4, not even that many 7/8 and 15/16, and whatever. But there's some old names. Lee Eaton's dad, Frank, was in business that I knew Frank back in those days, and Buddy Cobb that was a great guy, and one of the earlier ones. Buddy was educated, a very good engineer, but he was good with numbers and he loved working with numbers, and so he was one of the early ones to be performance testing and paying attention to numbers and whatever. A great mentor for me to follow, and a great place to go and enjoy the week and whatever. Buddy would go to New York and buy taxis that he would use for his pickups out on the range. What are those taxis called? The Metros or whatever. But anyhow, he'd drive them 80 miles an hour out across the pasture. I mean, and of course that was back before seat belts and so on like that. I mean, if you didn't have religion when you got in, you would when you got out. And he was a character. He was
good thing they didn't have cell phones during that era.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was. But anyhow, there was ones like that. The Kona Ranch, Marguerite Miller was a prominent one that had some of the early Michaelis cattle and whatever. And but then I soon got into being one of the larger ones and so on. And quickly, I didn't have the commercial herd for very long. That before I found out that was going to be way more than I wanted to do, to be running 400 cows 17 miles from here up on a mountain. If I'd had a helicopter, it'd have worked. If I would have been involved with the Duttons and had the Dutton family come over and whatever, I'd have been okay. But that was before the Duttons found Montana. But,
they screwed it all up, didn't they?
Absolutely. But anyhow, I guess I sold that. But I did get a good education from that. And speaking of Midland Test Station, when I bought the ranch, there were 20 bulls that were at Midland that I got off of out of the deal. I put 10 of them through the bull sale, which they didn't do that good for how they had led this test station by the best gain and had all kinds of good numbers behind them, but no one wanted Charolais cattle. But I brought 10 of them home and turned them out on the mountain with my Hereford and Black Bolly cows, and thought, boy, Dr. Sutherland will be proud of me because I am going to have more vigor and more hybrid vigor than anyone else, and I'm going to grow some popping good calves and stuff. And again, it was unheard of to have bulls that were gaining 4 and 5 pounds a day at that time. And so I thought man, I really got into the right deal. Well, that fall when they came down out of the mountains, you couldn't tell the calf sucking the cow from the bull breeding the cow, and those poor things had melted. And if I'd have turned some Corrientes up there, they would have been more respectable than what those
Oh no.
yearling Charolais bulls that melted. And
Oh
so
no.
that's why my sale is 2-year-old bulls. I've never sold anything but 2-year-olds because
Mhm.
I just didn't have. I got burned bad enough on the yearlings myself that I said no, I'm never going to do that because if they would, well, if I'd have sold those to someone else, they'd have called their veterinarian, they'd have called the Humane Society, they'd have called their sheriff or anyone but me to say, hey, I want some more of those.
You're right.
And
You're right.
that educated me there. You know, you get a lot of education by misexperience, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
That's it.
You learn the
Experience
hard
is, yeah, experience is highly touted, but misexperience is when it hits your wallet, you remember. It
Yep.
definitely does.
So several years you held the sale at your place, correct? Or nearby?
The first 2 sales were held at the auction markets in other places, and then we did, well, no, the first 3 were sold. The first one was in Missoula, the next 2 were in Kalispell, and then
Oh,
they came to my place. Then I built one year I built a sale barn, an indoor arena that I was wanting to train horses in, but it worked fantastic for a sale barn.
mhm.
And then built a house and built a set of twin boys. And
Ah,
that was my good year. That was a bonus year. And
yeah.
sales have been held there ever since until this year. And this year, because now the grandson is old enough that he headed off to college, that was my real good help. And just a combination, the early winter and the 3 years of drought, and it just used to be so easy to have a bull sale, and especially after you've had 50 of them. The
Mhm.
same gal came to cater, the same brand inspector was there to brand inspect, the same veterinarian was there, uh, the same chip trucks would come in and dump bedding and so on. Well, now we don't have lumber mills here anymore because we're just hugging the trees and using them for fire
Yeah.
the ones that have been hit by lightning and burned. Well, now the owls don't even roost in them and stuff. But anyway, the bottom
You don't
line,
migrate.
we have to go to Idaho to get wood chips, and that's
Oh,
very
really?
expensive. And just little items like that, that's just nonsense. And I'm to the maturity state that I don't want to fight the battle and whatever. And likewise, when my grandson headed off to college, I thought, that leaves me on the feed truck, and I'm past that.
Yeah.
I graduated, and
Yep.
so
Yep. Yep.
that kind of made me. And Midland is very well run and very
Mm.
good people, and I can't say enough good about what they do. And our bulls are not actually at Midland; they're at another ranch 12 miles down the road, which is exciting. We're going to move them in. That there's a sale there this weekend. That Stevenson Angus is having a sale there this weekend. They'll be out by Wednesday, and my bulls will go in Wednesday, and then they have Thursday before you come to see them on Friday,
Mhm.
that they'll be all bedded down and laying there yawning and chewing their cuds, and then you'll come on Friday and
Yeah.
pet them, and then we sell them on Saturday.
And
But
that is Saturday the 28th, just so people
that's
know.
correct. That's
And
correct.
and Midland Bull Test is in Columbus, Montana, which is
Correct.
it's what is it 45
It's
minutes out of Billings, maybe?
yeah, a short 45, but yeah.
Yeah. So
It's an
just
easy drive. It's interesting that it's right there on the highway. You almost could throw a rock from your
mhm.
pickup as you drive by, but there's
Yep.
no exit. And so you
Yeah.
have to go
All
clear
the way
on
down
by
and back. Mhm.
whatever. And so
Mhm.
that's if you're coming from the east, you can get off at the little town of Park City and take the frontage road from Park City out to the Midland Test. And if you are coming from Columbus, you drive off the interstate to downtown to Main Street and then head back east and
Yep.
whatever.
So
And
it'll
and
oh, sorry, go ahead.
the Midland Test, it's interesting that I knew it, even though I had bulls on Midland Test clear back. That was before they moved out to Columbus. Their first years were in Billings, and they were sold at the Pays livestock auction. And my first ones went through Pays livestock auction and stuff. But at any rate, when they moved out of town, they moved it to Keating Charolais Ranch. And Ted Keating was actually from Molt, Montana, but he built this big building there at Columbus. And so the sign on the top, on the roof of the Midland Test that said Midland Test, it used to have a skeleton key on it for Keating, his brand, and it was Keating Charolais Ranch. So old timers in the Charolais business would know that
Yeah.
that's Keating's ranch and whatever.
Well, we did. So that this is a change for you to do this at Midland.
It's a huge change. It was like sending my children off to war.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was a
it's
huge change. You get used to getting up in the morning and seeing the bulls out there in the pen and seeing which one's coming in first and which one is limping and which one is looking fattest and all that kind of stuff. And when they're 375 miles away, you don't look as often.
no.
And so it's been a major change, but
Yep.
a good one. It's been super in all respects.
So the catalogs are out. It's going to be off. The sale's going to be on DV auction also, correct?
Correct.
Yep. And
it's been fortunate that there's several people flying in from Washington and Oregon that say, oh, well, gee, it's easier to fly into Billings than it is to drive into Montana. And so that's gone well. And we're taking them 375 miles east. We're able to get to some of the west ranches that wouldn't have come over the mountain to here. And so we're finding new people that are finding us. And so that part is good. And another blessing is that there's no Charolais bulls on Midland Test. And so people that come in and talk to Steve and Amy about Midland Test bulls, Charolais bulls, and they say, yep, we've got them. They're right down the road here. And that's good enough.
Yeah. Well, and that's it's a pretty area that where Columbus is. So, there's for anybody that's driving, I mean, that's I go through there a lot, and ironically, before we start recording, I'm going to be going right through there the same weekend. So we're going to stop by yourself.
I'm so glad you are. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and that's excited to see what your bulls are. So let's talk about, through all these years, how's the Charolais breed changed in your mind, and what's positive and even negative? So what do you think we're doing good, and what do we have to work on?
Well, one of the things I feel we've totally if they pay any attention, totally have eliminated calving problems. I have 10 bulls that will sell in my sale this year that will go breed black and red and whatever commercial heifers and calve sleeping at night and no problem at all. And in fact, they are way go back to the bingo bloodline. They'll have bingo in their name is what the case is, and it's clear back from selecting for short gestation and selecting for ease of calving and still getting a whole lot of pop to them that has some carcass ability and so on like that.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's known for calving problems on lots of them, I never have a customer say they have any calving problems. I've got funny stories. A guy from South Dakota that called me first and he said, I hear you have Charolais bulls that'll calve easy and stuff. He says, I calve by air, and so I need easy calving. And I thought, well, he doesn't have a corral, and so he's just out in the open spaces calving and stuff. And pretty soon he goes on and he says, yeah, I fly over in my Cessna 172, and if I see a cow that's laying there with a calf hanging on her a couple of times, and I'm not going to buy any more bulls from you. So that's what calving by air is. That's what it means to calve by air. But yeah, I sell bulls to people that run thousands and thousands and whatever, and they just don't want to have calving problems. And the two things that you would know from being in the business that you'll lose a customer immediately is calving problems and disposition problems.
Yeah.
And we feel we just don't have them. And I'm old enough. We have a alley that I'm the one walking the bulls up the alley to the tub and put them through. And it's my son and grandson that are up there at the silencer to have a vaccine gun in each hand and have the measures going and punch the scales to weigh them and whatever. And so as I'm walking, I'm writing notes and whatever, but I guarantee if one of them turns around and threatens me at all, he's at McDonald's that week, and he's the treat. And the patience, it doesn't take long until you eliminate him. Same thing. I kid about this one a little bit, but when you ride out into some of our pastures are pretty good size, and we'll have the bulls, and if one of them runs off and they're like sheep, the other ones will follow. And so if you just carry your rifle and the first one that runs off, you just drop him, and pretty soon none of them run off. And
I figured it out real quick.
that's just,
Oh, that does sound like Yellowstone. I think they did that kind of stuff in the show.
I guess that Rip has come up and seen us a little, and we'll
they've been spying on you.
I guess that's it.
So what is your average birth weight on like your bulls being born on your cows? Like what's a comfortable birth weight for your?
I guess forever and ever we've put a lid on it at 100 pounds. Putting it first, we bought in probably 1980 when I was at Calgary Bull Sale. I found this little outfit, this contraption that's for calves, for calving. You take the calf, first of all, you haul it around in the back of you can pull it with your four-wheeler, but it's easier to put it in the back of a little pickup, a Ranger or a Dakota or something like that, so you don't have to lift very hard to get them up into it. But you shove them in there. It has a guillotine head catch on them, so it's caught, so one man can tattoo an ear tag and whatever. It has a butt bar that pushes them forward, and it lifts their butt up off the ground, so it's easy to reach in with a lacerator rubber band and put it on them and dip their navel and take care of them that way. And it has a scale that tells you that it weighs 85.3 pounds. And you're not lifting anything. The hardest thing you do is pick him up and throw him in the back of the pickup. And you're up there in the pickup where you can sit down on the toolbox if you want to put the tattoo in and take your time and do whatever you want. And it's the neatest thing. Several people have copied it. I think they're still making them. I can't remember even the name of it, but some of my neighbors, we've got a whole lot of people in the Angus and limousine business, for instance, that are 15-mile Colemans that are 15 miles from me, and they've copied it and made their own and whatever. But the fact of having that digital scale that tells you exactly what they weigh and whatever is accurate. But anyhow, we shut it off at 100 pounds, but I really don't have anything in the sale I think there might be a 92 or a couple of 92s or something like that. But in the 80s is what I'm comfortable with. Now, you don't want to get carried away with weights. I've found out, and you've bought bulls from same places I have. They're born in the fall that have exceptionally low birth weights, and that doesn't reflect on what they would do in Montana.
Yeah.
So don't compare nutrition, don't compare region, don't compare from herd to herd. But that's what my cows are smaller than most cows. I take an open cow to town, and if she weighs 1,300 pounds, I think, wow, I was feeding that much, and whatever. And I guess I'm happy to have that when I cash them in and stuff. But that's kind of where we're at, 12 to 1,300 pound cows, and that's all the more that we're running blue collar cows that go in the mountains and whatever. And I guess, and we see it, Angus cows used to weigh 900 pounds and they'd bring in a 500 pound calf. Now they weigh 1,800 pounds and bring in a 550 pound calf. Something's working in that math. And they're feeding two cows and getting one calf is what I'm thinking, somewhere along the line. And I saw that Lucky 7 ranch in Wyoming hit a home run with their bulls that are doing the test of what the feed consumption is, and I'm proud that someone's paying attention to that. But I just learned if I send a big cow up I've always said if I'd send a Holstein cow up with a Charolais calf on it, she can bring home an 1,800 pound calf. I mean, an 800 pound calf, but I guarantee you she's going to come home open. And they just aren't going to do it. And that's kind of the same thing with a big Charolais cow. Yep, she might bring home a big calf, but she probably won't come home with another calf in her. And so we have to stay conservative with what our feed is.
Yeah.
We're running in big country and expect for him to work for a living.
What bull was the most influential that you've used through the years in your herd?
Well, Bingo was the first calf crop, and I'm still using it. But
Yeah.
that's one that's whatever. We've had really great success with several of them that we've really liked, and whatever. Grid maker has been a huge factor that we still see, and you see a lot of it in our daughters and so on like that. The one that I'm using an awful lot right now is Free Lunch, and he's just been the number one. Free Lunch has got the marbling. I'm kind of old enough that I get aggravated at some things, but I see some Charolais bulls that are being promoted to no end that are horrible in marbling. And if there's anything we need to have, we're in the beef business, for God's sakes. We need to be having something that is going to make good steaks. And marbling is the first thing we need to look at. But the only other thing that I see in bulls that are being promoted is these bulls that have a 0.7 EPD for scrotal measurement. And I could name you some bulls that they'll haunt you down the line. I can tell you some names that their daughters are going to throw bull calves that don't have any nuts. And, if they don't have a whole lot, not just a little, but a whole lot, they don't make my bull sale. And I'm not in the steer business. It pisses me off to be in the steer business.
Yeah.
So I'm looking. In fact, you've seen that on my advertisement: butts, guts, and nuts. And I'm not sure which one's more important. I want to see all of it. I want to see what they're doing.
Yep. So
Free Lunch has done really well.
In your sale here, is there some highlights to? I noticed your first 10 lots or so, or right in there. You talk about them quite a bit, and are those kind of your favorites that you've picked out? I guess.
Yeah, they're basically their higher performing bulls. That's just exact. Basically, our sells in the order of their weight at 18 months, and is what that's telling you. Anyone knows that the one that has the biggest weaning weight by a yearling, he's probably going to still be the biggest. But by 18 months after we run them like you would yearling steers, and they go up the mountain and gain a pound a day and 2 pounds a day if it's a star and so on. And so it's not what mother's milk did or what they had to start and stuff. It's what they look like at 18 months is going to probably tell you what they're going to look like as a mature bull. And that's what the sale order is what they weighed at 18 months of age. And it pretty much goes through. It stays pretty close to the same all the way through.
Yeah. Why don't you skip there, Mitch, just to the next page, I guess. But if you get the catalog, which you can go on DV auction and check it out here, you can see a lot of bulls that you've been using in recent years. You talked about the Free Lunch.
Free Lunch is dominated this year. I believe it's is it 6 of the top 10? I should read my own notes. 6 of the top 10 are Free Lunch. And that's saying and Free Lunch just has dominated what the front end bulls are. And they definitely have everything. And if you look at the EPDs from way back of Free Lunch, he wasn't known for being maternal. But if you look in my catalog, you'll see some of the best females or some of the best bulls are out of Free Lunch daughters. There's lot number 8 is out of a first calf heifer, and his mother is my favorite bloodlines that you can imagine. It has Bingo and Free Lunch, and that's definitely what I'm breeding. That's what you call your reward when you hit a home run on that end of it.
Yep. And it looks like LT Rushmore's worked pretty good with some sons.
Yes. I'm using some more sons of LT Rushmore still and whatever. Well, you saw Wright's sale the other day what's the e-bull that's so good that they have that's a
well, Mike's bought there last year. What was
that's terrible.
Yeah,
you can tell that I'm one of the prominent Charolais breeders that really digs into that. I'm more interested in numbers than names, and I'm more interested in how they perform, and then I'll give them a name after that.
Yeah,
whatever. But anyhow, that's been and it's interesting. Rushmore is kind of like the Free Lunch bull. Free Lunch wasn't discovered until he was 7-year-old or something like that. The VPI stands for Virginia Polytech Institute, and so he was an East Coast bull and didn't get any semen out to the West until way late. and definitely he was great. Rushmore was probably a 6 or 7-year-old before they figured out he was one of the better bulls.
Well, yeah.
And I'm
Encompass, is that the bull you're thinking of?
that's it. You're right. Yep.
WC
I've
and
got a
Compass.
couple of sums of Encompass that had amazing numbers in a year ago sale, and whatever that I'm hoping turn out good. They are. I'm going with all the numbers fitting together on those.
Yep.
And their mothers were old time, well bulls that I've had before, and I mean dams that I've used before and whatever. But yeah, and it's, I don't know a bull's a good one until I see what his 3-year-old daughters are doing. And that's where I'm getting better about collecting some of them. Again, like I say, I have half interest with several bulls with Galen Fink, and I'm collecting them all and whatever. There's 2 of them that he's using a whole bunch and whatever. And I guess that it took me a little while to figure out how good they were. And it takes Megan a little bit to call me and say, hey, this numbers are way high. It's in the top 1%. Because I wouldn't have known it.
There you go. Yep.
My best bulls that I've had over the years, and Brent Thiel was a long time friend from he was, I guess, first of all, his brother was a fraternity brother of mine at Fort Collins at Colorado State, and then his dad judged a lot of quarter horse shows, and when I was showing, well, his dad was a major judge, and then all of a sudden here comes little Brent, that's my AICA rep, that's coming to sell me advertising and so on like that, and we got to be really good friends. And then all of a sudden he's partners with Les and gets in the Charolais business. And so I had an insight on going to see what they were doing and following what he was doing. And my best deal was to go drive through a pasture and look at babies sucking their mothers and say, yep, that mother's what I want and that baby's what I want. And then seeing them later. And so that's where I got involved in several of the bloodlines that they had. But that's how I got to know the LT bloodlines forever and ever. I think I missed their first bull sale, but I think I was at every one of them since. And now in the past few years, I've missed a few of them. But I've sure followed their cattle forever and ever.
Well, if you get a chance, we had the opportunity last year to go see their new sale facility. And,
I was there. Yeah.
You were? Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I ate their steak and I drank their whiskey and I had their ice cream cones. They have an ice cream cone machine that's pretty fancy.
I never made it past the bar over in that corner to the ice cream area. So my bad, but I wish I would have known you at that time. Because
that was pretty good. And their hospitality is unequaled. It's great. And again, like I say, I guess I remember clear back when Todd was away in college. I stayed in his bedroom at Les's house when they got snowed in one year, and the sale was postponed for like 3 or 4 days because it snowed in and whatever. Well, I was staying there, and there was several of us. Well, Alan Alexander was one of them, and who else? There were several of us that just lived there and enjoyed it, and it was as good as hospitality as you can ask for.
Oh yeah. What's that little town? What town is that they live in? Right.
Isabel.
Yeah. So we had a hotel in there, and well, it's not really a hotel. I guess it kind of is. It's like what do you call it?
A barracks.
Yeah. A bunch of rooms. And so we go in there, and I was going to get our key, and of course, the door's wide open. There's nobody around, in the lobby, and there's a little note there. It says, "Well, just call this number if you're wanting to check in." So I called the number, and she goes, "Oh yeah, honey, you're room number 8." I'm like, "All right." She goes, "The key's in the room." I'm like, okay.
There's nothing else in there.
Oh yeah, there was such a simple process. Yeah, self check-in, and it was awesome. But
that sounds ideal.
But let's go back to your sale here. So we've kind of flipped through some great genetics here. Years and years, 58 years of bull sales, and again, people remember it's in Columbus, Montana this year. So, but you can attend, go on DV auction. And there's a great lunch going to happen there, served by a good friend, correct?
Correct. And
Yep.
and it's all going to be Charolais beef served by one of
Yes.
the prominent Angus breeders that is doing good, but it's all going to be Charolais unless it's bad. And
Yeah.
then it's going to be, if you get a tough one, we're going to know John stuck in one of those certified Angus ones.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of pressure on him. This
Yep.
is John's definitely doing a major job having that steakhouse, and it's gone over. I've heard great things. I haven't been there myself, but it's gone over fantastically well, and I'm sure he'll do equally as well with catering.
Yep.
So
It's
I'm
going to be
willing
a
to
good
support
one.
him and good.
Yep. So hopefully the weather looks like it's warming up throughout the region. So
It's yes, amazingly, it's supposed to be in the 70s, maybe even 80s sail day at my place.
Yeah.
And you won't have any trouble getting over the pass. There's no snow on the pass at this point, and so you're
hammer down.
Go
Yeah.
for it. Yeah, it's
It's
80
just-
miles an hour. 80 miles an hour if your pickup can hold it, and
Oh, yeah.
they'll wave at you as you go by at 85.
Well, I don't have a 454, but I do have a power stroke.
Okay.
Well, buddy, it's been an honor having you on our
Oh,
podcast and telling the
it's
story.
Definitely
Uh,
been fun.
You know,
I
it's one of the best episodes we've had, and it's fun to hear the history that you've seen and the stories all the way from college rodeo days. And again, Craig, congrats to your getting inducted. That is a huge honor in the Hall of Fame, and it's just fun to see that there's still real Charolais breeders out there doing it for what they love. And
I appreciate that. I've had some fantastic mentors, like I say, ones like Buddy Cobb and Maximo Michaelis was fantastic. The Michaelis story is in itself is an incredible thing that they used to send white shorthorns south into Mexico, but then they bootlegged Charolais back across. It was from the Miguel Acosta herd in Mexico, and that's why there was all the wetback cattle to begin with and whatever. And I fortunately got in. I think in 1972 or 3 or somewhere in there, I bought the most that Maximo Michaelis had ever sold, and to get out of his herd. He definitely had a closed herd, and he had let a cow here and there and a bull here and there and stuff. But I got a whole bunch. But he was a great mentor. There's some fantastic mentors that I've had.
Yeah,
and lots of fun people. It was great getting to travel around and see what there was.
Yeah. Oh,
well, I'm glad you're traveling around and you're going to get to stop and see what we're doing.
It is. It's ironic, and I literally just said half an hour before we started recording, I started putting the dates together because I just actually put it together today, and I'm like, oh, this is going to work out good.
Right.
So,
Right.
yep,
Right.
we're gonna come stop by, and I'll introduce myself, and
Outstanding.
well, maybe we'll
guy
do a
running
little.
around panicked. I'll be the guy running around with a panicked look on himself.
Well, I'll
and
do a little. I'll do a little Facebook Live on our Charolais Chatter podcast of the Bulls, so everybody can kind of see that.
Outstanding.
Yeah, but appreciate you being on with us, everybody in Nebraska. Stay safe, and thank you to Cattle Active for the donation to all the people that's being affected by the wildfires right now. So until the next time, we'll see you on the next trip, my friends.
It's been fun. Thank you.
And some raise the roof, and some give their lives protecting.
Except for I have no idea how to shut it off. You see me leaving, it's because to get my computer person to do it. I'm thinking, I see the microphone. Okay.
There you go.